We are
in Utah.
in Utah.
Of all places.
I know, it's beautiful though.
It is.
It's a little windy, but
Yeah,
that's okay.
but that's what happens when you're on top of a hill.
Yeah. So why are we here?
Well, we're here to film some of the remaining scenes from Lessons from the Land to Exodus.
Yeah.
We weren't able to film all of them when we were in Egypt, and so we came out here to film the last few.
Yeah, so like you said, we brought you to Egypt and we filmed,
that's right.
the ones that we needed
Yeah.
Egypt in the background. I remember there was one at the Nile River, but there was a lot in the wilderness that we just didn't have time to get to. I think this looks like wilderness to me.
This is actually absolutely beautiful, and I think this will be perfect for what we need.
Yeah, but while we're thinking about Lessons from the Land, the Exodus, we're getting ready to release Lessons from the Land,
The Kings, which is actually something we filmed a long time ago, a little over a year ago, but it's taken us a little while to get all the pieces in place, but we're finally ready to release it to everybody, and we couldn't be more excited about it.
Yeah. So here we go. Lessons from the Land, The Kings is out now, and we want to give you guys a couple episodes to watch. So actually, before we do that, I have a special surprise for you. Come with me. Come with me. Barry, we don't want to leave home without it. You're in for a treat, Barry.
Oh,
Oh, look at that.
this is.
Nice gold. There's no sun right now.
I'm already sweating.
You're already
Just standing in front of it just makes me want to sweat.
It's so big. Oh, I see it. There it is.
This is the reflector that we've taken all over the globe, literally,
It has.
to light our scenes, and it's
Your favorite.
it's my favorite.
It's your favorite.
Yeah.
So, but now we want to show you guys a couple episodes of Lessons from the Land, The King. So we've got 2 episodes that we want to show. The first one is called Out of Order, and it really deals with the time before the kings, the time of the judges. And then after that, what are we going to show?
Is one on archaeology,
Yeah.
where we had Dr. Scott Stripling, and he just did a wonderful job. It was great to interview him and go see the ancient site of Shiloh.
Yeah. So take a look at these 2 episodes, and we'll see you later.
What does it mean when something's out of order? Maybe it's a toy or an elevator or a ride at an amusement park. It means that something isn't working the way it intended to. It's broken. We're all familiar with the term out of order as it relates to objects or things, but did you know that in the book of Judges, in the Old Testament, God's people were out of order? And that led to some serious trouble.
In the book of Exodus, God freed the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. Later, God gave His people the Promised Land, which today is known as Israel. There they followed God for a little while, but then the Bible tells us that they started worshiping idols from the nations around them. Baal was one of those idols. After Moses, Joshua and all the leaders his age died. The book of Judges tells us that a new generation arose who did not know the Lord or the work He had done for Israel. These would have been the children and the grandchildren of Joshua's generation, the people who conquered the Promised Land.
Not knowing God or the work He had done for the Israelites is a dangerous thing. It should have been a warning sign that things were starting to go the wrong way. It's the same for us today. If we don't know God, then that leaves the door open for Satan to come in and tempt us to do wrong. And that's exactly what happened.
The last verse of the book of Judges paints a very dark picture. It says, "In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes." What do you think happened when each person got to decide for themselves what was right and what was wrong? Trouble. They were hurting each other, killing and going to war with each other. They were afraid of the people around them, and they were sadly becoming evil like the people around them. The Israelites were out of order. They even went to the prophet Samuel and demanded their own king, ignoring the fact that God was their king. That's how Saul became Israel's first king. They wanted to be like the world, instead of wanting to be faithful to God. Were some people still faithful? Yes. People like Samuel still followed God. But overall, the nation of Israel had turned away from Him and did what was right in their own eyes.
This needs to be a warning sign for us today. We also live in a world that's out of order. A lot of people have turned away from God and are doing whatever they think is right. That could mean lying or cheating in order to get ahead, being disrespectful to parents or teachers, even hurting others, making choices based on their feelings instead of based on what God says is right. As God's people, we shouldn't make the same mistake. If we do, we will get out of control. It's easy for us to look at the world and want to be like them, wear the same clothes, talk the same way, do the same things, and forget who our true King is and the blessings that come from knowing Him. Don't let the world influence you and cause you to be out of order. Instead, let God be your King and use the Bible to learn about the right way to act. When you walk around the lands of the Bible, there's a lot to see. You can visit hundreds of places mentioned in the Bible, and at the same time get a little peek of what life was like long ago. Every year, people called archaeologists are discovering new things that are connected to the Bible. How are these things discovered? And why are they so important to us as we study God's Word? Let's dig a little deeper as we learn about archaeology and how it relates to the Bible.
Whether it's the pyramids in Egypt, the Acropolis in Greece, or the small fishing village of Capernaum, history is all around us. Archaeology is the study of history through the things that people made, used, and left behind. It's a type of science that helps us better understand cultures that we may not be familiar with today. In the Bible, we read about people that lived a long time ago and cities and places that have changed over time. It may be a real challenge to picture in our minds the places in the Bible when you live in a different part of the world thousands of years after those places existed. I want to take you to Shiloh. My friend Jeremy and I talked with an archaeologist who is digging at that site. Shiloh was an important city during the United Kingdom of Israel. It is where the tabernacle once stood, and it was the home of the Ark of the Covenant. Today, a team of people is working to uncover ancient objects from this site, like pottery and coins or jewelry.
All right, there's a piece of pottery.
In order to learn more about what life was like in the time of Samuel and the first kings of Israel. Let's walk through the archaeological process. First, you need tools like this to scrape away the layers of soil that have been uncovered. Once an artifact has been found, you clean it off with a brush and some water to remove the dirt and look for writing or other details that could help tell a story. Sometimes, piles of dirt are shaken up in a sifter like this to help remove the dirt and uncover other artifacts. Next, after you've uncovered and cleaned the artifacts, you can take them to a lab and look at them under a microscope where you can inspect them more closely.
Wow. That's a beautiful coin.
Artifacts that they want to keep are stored in a large warehouse in Israel where museums can borrow them and put them on display for other people to look at. Typically, After big discoveries are made, an archaeologist will write a paper or article letting the world know about the discovery and the importance it has for us today. In 1993, archaeologists digging in northern Israel found 3 pieces of stone that, when put together, describes a battle that one of the enemies of Israel fought in. It mentions that Hazael, the king of Syria, defeated Israel and the house of David, very similar to a story that we read about in the Bible.
Let's talk about why this is important to our Bible study. Discoveries being made in the Bible lands help verify that what we read in the Bible is the truth. Archaeology also helps us visualize the Bible in a better way. Take these artifacts, for example. They look very different than some of the things that we use today. When we read stories in the Bible about an oil lamp or a coin, and we can see what those things actually look like, it brings a richer understanding to what we read. Archaeology can help us better understand history and the people of the Bible, and that helps us better understand how to follow the Bible today.
All right, we're here still here in Utah, and we've been filming all morning scenes from Lessons from the Land, the Exodus. But of course, we're here still talking about Lessons from the Land, the Kings, that we're in the process of releasing. But you can kind of see our setup here. It's a pretty simple setup. Stuart here's he's been our audio guy the entire morning. He's been fighting planes, trains, and automobiles literally the whole day. And Craig is behind the camera. In fact, he's behind the camera right now shooting this, but that's how I see Craig during this whole time. I never actually see Craig because he's behind the camera. And we have not only the car that we drove out here in the middle of nowhere with, but we've got this shade that to try to give me the lighting that they want for the shot. And that's really about all that is. And this huge boom mic that's always pointed directly at me. So it's kind of an interesting setup. I really do enjoy the period of the Kings. It's such an interesting period of history with regards to the Israelite nation that we've got 2 episodes coming up for you that we're going to show you here. One has to do with David and Joab as they took the city of Jerusalem. In the video, we'll be crawling through tunnels and everything, so it's really, really exciting. In the second video, we talk about some of the things that we got out of the period of the Kings. And one of those is literature and music and writings. And we're going to make a stop by Qumran, which is where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. So those are 2 of my favorite episodes, and I'm thrilled to share them with you.
Have you ever had a friend give you a challenge? Maybe it's a contest to see if you can run faster or possibly beat their high score at a video game. Maybe it's a challenge that seems at first impossible. King David once issued a challenge to his men that seemed impossible, but one of his men stood up, accepted the challenge, and did something amazing. After Saul died, David finally became king. During the first few years of his reign, David lived in a place called Hebron, a city about 20 miles west of the Dead Sea. Today, the city of Hebron is one of the largest cities in that area. After 7.5 years, David set his sights on the city of Jerusalem. There were a couple of problems. First, the Jebusite people were already living in Jerusalem. And second, the city was well protected and was going to be very difficult for David and his men to capture. In 1 Chronicles chapter 11, David gave his men a challenge and the offer of a reward. David said, "Whoever strikes the Jebusites first shall be chief and commander." The Jebusites laughed and made fun of David. They believed that even blind and lame soldiers could fight off David and his men. They were convinced that no one would ever be able to defeat them. But then, one of David's men named Joab stepped up to the challenge. With David's suggestion, Joab found a secret passage up through a tunnel below Jerusalem and captured Jerusalem from the inside out. And just like David promised, Joab was then made commander of David's army. I want to show you a tunnel that Joab could have used to sneak his men in and capture the city. After ruling for 7 years in Hebron, David decided to move his capital to the city of Jerusalem. The problem was that the Jebusites were here, and so he needed a way to enter the city and capture it. He issued a challenge to his men, and he challenged them to go up the water shaft. The word in Hebrew is sinor. Sometimes it's translated as pipe, because he knew that would be an entrance into the city, and if they could get someone in there, they maybe have a chance of capturing the city. Joab volunteered for that and was able to successfully get in. For a long time, we didn't understand exactly what that meant in the Bible. But in 1867, a British explorer by the name of Charles Warren came to this land looking for different biblical archaeological sites. And he found this shaft. And he actually climbed up this shaft and discovered this whole tunnel system under here. And he proposed that this was probably the way that the citizens of the Jebusite city came to retrieve their water. And so he proposed that this is the pipe, the water shaft, the sinor that is mentioned in Scripture.
How do we know that this could be that shaft?
This may not have been the exact way that the people retrieved their water at the time, but this is the way Charles Warren came up. There are one or two other shafts in this area that Joab could have come up, but it would have been something very similar to this that would have given him access inside the city.
So it still fits the story, whether it was this shaft or another shaft. There was something just like this that Joab would have come up to help capture the Jebusite city.
That's right.
Why would David ask Joab or one of his men to come up a water shaft in order to help capture a city?
Well, the city of Jerusalem, the ancient Jebusite city, sat on a little peninsula of land that was surrounded by the Kidron, Hinnom, and Central valleys. So it was very defensible. It was very hard to attack the city. I think that's one of the reasons why David wanted the city. There was going to have to be something secret to happen. And as you can see, it wouldn't be very easy to get here. Only one man could come up here. You couldn't pull a whole army. And so probably Joab came up a shaft like this, then was able to open the door and allow the army in. Sometimes when you choose to follow God, His Word may challenge you to do some hard things, like standing up for what's right even when you're the only one, or being willing to help someone even when you'd rather be doing something else. Sometimes God's challenges may even seem impossible. Like Joab, we should be willing to stand up and accept the challenge. If God is our King, we'll be asked to do hard things. It's easy to stay silent and hope that someone else will do it for us, but we should be quick to accept the challenge and be glad that we can be used in God's kingdom to do great things for Him. When we read the stories of the kings of Israel, sometimes it's easy to get caught up with the interesting characters, the exciting battles, and incredible faith people show. We can forget about whose words we're actually reading. Today, we're going to visit a place where a hidden treasure was kept safe for thousands of years, and we're going to learn a secret for finding God on every page of the Bible.
On the northern shore of the Dead Sea is a place called Qumran. The area is very hot and dry. There's not much out there. However, hidden in the caves around Qumran were some of the most exciting biblical artifacts ever discovered. In 1946, a shepherd stumbled into one of the caves here and found a whole bunch of clay jars, and inside the jars were scrolls, copies of almost every book of the Old Testament. Some of these scrolls were very old, kept safe in these jars for more than 2,000 years. Among the scrolls found were copies of the Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Solomon. Much of David's most beautiful and heartfelt descriptions of God, and much of Solomon's God-given wisdom are included in these books. Think of it. The Bibles that we read today came from these and other scrolls saved for us after all this time. Why would God have kept these scrolls safe for so long? What does He want us to know?
Here's the secret God wants us to know about Him. As you read the stories of King Saul, David, and Solomon, when you read the Psalms of David and the Proverbs of Solomon, you should always ask, what can we learn about God from this? The first kings of Israel were not perfect, not even close. But God chose to share their stories, the good and the bad, and save them for us. He did that so that we could learn that God is the perfect King, that He is faithful, wise, and protects His people. He wants us to be like King David, people after God's own heart.
Well, I hope you enjoyed those episodes. They were a privilege to make, and I'm finally glad that we're able to release them to everyone.
They are really good, and every time my kids watch them, I'm just super excited because I can see them lighting up as they watch those episodes.
Yeah.
So we really would encourage you to get a group together and have a bunch of kids over and watch these episodes because they've got so much great content in them. And we have a giveaway for you.
Right, and everybody needs to go to the website, watch the entire series, but in YouTube and in Facebook, make a comment, because of the people who leave comments, we're going to have 2 gift cards that we're going to give away, up to $25 for our website.
Yep, so go on there, leave a comment on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, and be entered to win a $25 gift card. We're going to give away one from both of those sites. So we hope you guys enjoyed this special premiere of Lessons from the Land of the Kings. They are on the website now, as Barry said, and we'll be releasing them on YouTube very soon.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
You ready?
Ready, let's go.